So James, again, I really want to thank you for being a part of our program. I want you to know that we'll be distributing this to more than 100,000 people in prisons and jails across America.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that they will get valuable lessons from your teaching, and we'll be able to use this to teach and inspire more guys so they come back as law-abiding citizens. And this could be a contribution that you made to being the change that we want to see in the world. So thank you so much for being with us. Is there any final words that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think just one final thought. As a business leader, I think the biggest reason why I took to you and the people that you're interviewing and what you were saying really started to gain traction with me is because I don't really listen to motivational speakers per se, but to me, you're real. You have a real story, and you overcame real challenges. You created a real successful life for yourself. And I've listened to some of the people that you've interviewed that became professors and doctors and built the business. So to me, that's real. I don't need a motivational speaker just filling up my ear with go out there and do something. I really I like the message, and it's just that's why it gained so much traction with me. So that's it.
I'm so grateful to you for saying that. I hope that if you're in a jail or a prison, you listen to that as well, and you start building your story of influencing the way people will see you. I am Michael with Prison Professors. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please do so. This is the way we gain traction and teach and inspire more people to come back successfully. There's information in the show notes below. If you have anything to say, please leave a comment. I do my best to respond. Thank you. And thank you very much, James. I really appreciate your contribution. Welcome to the Prison Professors program. I am Michael Santos, super enthusiastic about sharing some information that I think is going to be really valuable to anybody who is living in struggle, or if somebody is in jail or prison and they have to be thinking about how am I going to recalibrate my life. Today we're going to learn from somebody who's going to tell us a story about how he became familiar with Prison Professors and how he's using these concepts in his life. And I will be asking him questions to show what are the takeaways that I would have gotten if I were still in prison. So we're talking with James from Chicago. James, thanks so much for being a part of our program.
Thanks, Michael. It's good to be here.
Well, why don't we start by clarifying that James has I'll ask you to say, do you have any history of being in prison or anything like that?
No, not at all. Zero.
So no history of incarceration, no history with the criminal justice system. Instead, you're a business owner and a business leader, and I'd love it if you told our audience a little bit about the type of business that you built.
So I've been in the IT industry, technology, pretty much my entire adult life. I won't go into all the details of how I got here, but basically like 5 years ago, when I turned 40, okay, I was an IT guy, but I didn't really have a lot of direction. So when I turned 40, I decided it was time to get serious about my career, my life. So I built up a client base, and I actually purchased 3 other IT companies, small, in the last 5 years. So that's here we are now.
And the reason I'm going to be asking you these questions is because one of the lessons that I provide to people who are living in challenging times is that they have to live in the world as it exists. And for my clients, my audience, most of whom are in jail or prison, don't fully appreciate the challenges they're going to have when they move into the employment sector. So I really value interviewing business leaders that talk about how do you solve problems for clients, how do you build a business, how do you create value for the people that you are serving. And so if you could tell us a little bit about what an IT business does to solve problems for clients.
So basically what I do, or my team and my companies, they're all similar. They're operated under 3 different brand names because I obviously bought them, and they're legally separate companies. We're an IT department for businesses. So I've learned to stay focused the last couple of years and build processes. So we do exactly what an in-house IT person would do, except we do it as a service. My clients are all businesses, small to medium. and all over as far as industry goes, law firms, restaurants, CPAs, accountants, financial advisors, you name it, we probably have a client in that vertical.
And so does that mean that your clients pay you a monthly fee to oversee that their technology is always up and running, and if they have a problem, they can call one of your professionals and get the problem fixed remotely?
That is correct. Yes, the vast majority of our clients are, monthly, pay us a monthly fee for the service. And as the IT industry has evolved, 5 years ago, most clients were content, with paying a fee. When something breaks, they can't print, they can't email, they call us. But as the industry has evolved, we had to improvise. So by improvising, now we see ourselves as technical advisors, as consultants. So we're helping them with their business problems. Anybody can be on standby and fix a printer or fix Outlook. There's not a lot of value in that anymore. I mean, it still has to be done, but now my clients are coming to me, okay, well, how do I work remotely? Or things like, I'm spending 20 hours clicking around in the spreadsheet every month. Can you automate that for me? And that's the real value. And that's when you come to the table, with expertise, and we're really getting into that now.
And that's the type of lesson that I think somebody in jail or prison really needs to be mastering, is saying, okay, I live in a world that is changing, that is evolving. There was a time, I just heard James say, when there was value in somebody that could just come in and fix Outlook or fix a printer. But times have changed, where
Exactly.
the world is operating through these types of communications of Zoom and relationships with other people. And really, it's all about solving problems. If you can solve problems for people, nobody's going to care that you've got a criminal background, provided that you can solve the problem. And I would, as evidence of that, I would ask James to tell us, how is it that you and I are even connected?
Fair question. And I just want to throw this out there for your audience. I actually, just so everyone knows, I actually never went to college. I only have a high school degree. So my first IT job involved literally cleaning the toilets back when I was in my early 20s, and mopping floors. So, and go ahead.
So you said your first IT job was what?
I was literally, when I was in my early 20s, I was once a week, I was literally putting on gloves, and I did clean the office toilets. Yes.
That is an amazing story, and something that I think relates directly to our course on 10 steps to prepare for success from jail or prison. It's this message of incremental growth. You don't go into a job and feel degraded if it's an entry-level position such as cleaning toilets. You go into this job recognizing, hey, I'm getting my foot in the door. And even if I don't have a college degree, there may be enormous value in just the mentoring that I would get from other people in technology and other people that can help me grow. This is an area that has growth. So get your foot in the door, even if it's cleaning toilets, but then learn along the way. And I appreciate you for sharing that information. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the trajectory of your career?
So, I mean, in a nutshell, my brother actually got me the job, back in my early 20s, back when, information technology and the internet was pretty much just getting started. So, I was full time there, but I was literally an errand boy, and I did clean the toilets, I swept the floors, I took the garbage out. That was part of my job. And after a year, actually, I'm not going to get into this, draw it out, but after a year, I met somebody at that job that took a liking to me, and he hired me full time. And then that's how I got and then I didn't clean the toilets there, and I didn't take out the garbage. I was actually, an IT administrator. And then I stayed there for 4 years until actually that company went out of business. But at that point, I had enough experience and expertise to, got on my own. And that's how I started. So I was just, the IT guy, solo practitioner, helping clients. So that's how the whole chain happened. And here I am.
So when you started that business, what were some of the value or the service that you provided to clients? So you'd only been in for a few years. You are self-taught, it sounds like. What problems were you solving for customers?
I mean, the industry is a night and day compared to that period of time to today. But I was like, literally, it was all physical work. It was just repairing computers and repairing hard drives. And I was going into people's houses. And to be quite honest with you, my first couple of years, if I made in my business, $500 a month, it was like a lot. Because, I had nobody to rely on except myself. And I was putting, newspaper ads, and I stuck with it. And actually, on my third year is when it finally hit. On my third year, everything started to gain traction. I actually started to get new business clients. People were calling me for projects, and I actually, my third year is when I started to make a real salary. And today, I mean, I wouldn't trade my lifestyle. The fact that I can work from anywhere, I wouldn't trade that for anything right now. Ever.
So incredibly valuable information to somebody who's living in prison. The lesson here is it may take a couple of years to get traction, but once you get traction, you develop a life of meaning and fulfillment and relevance. And so what we need to be thinking about today are, what are all the skill sets that would have taken for a guy to go from cleaning toilets to having a business that he's super proud of? There's a lot of things that you could be preparing for right now, regardless of where you are, such as developing strong critical thinking skills, figuring out how do I develop relationships with new customers, developing strong communication skills to figure out how do I open relationships and be more persuasive and influential so that people say, wow, this is a guy that can help me. I'm very happy to pay him a fee. And eventually you end up gaining traction. So it's all about commitment and perseverance, but really sowing the seeds beforehand so that you can accelerate your success. And you may remember, James, that I asked you to tell our audience how you and I became connected.
Yes, I'd love to tell that story, actually. So, back in January, I listened to, a fair amount of podcasts, kind of all over the place, horror, murder mysteries, things like that. And I remember I was just looking around for like a prison documentary or a jail documentary podcast. And go ahead.
Why was you interested in a prison documentary or a prison podcast? Had you been, did you see something on television? What even inspired you or lit the spark to look at somebody in prison?
I actually do. I have not recently, but over the years, I have watched like the real-time prison documentaries where they go in and film the life. And I just find it interesting. No particular reason. The same reason why I love horror. Just so that's why I was looking around to see if there was just something like that, and that's how I found your podcast. So I listened to your first episode. You were very well spoken, very impressed. I didn't really think much of it at the time, and then I started to listening to the episodes more and more, and I started listening to the people that you were interviewing, and then I was really, really starting to like get inspired by the people that were coming out of prison and made something out of themselves, and how they did it, and also I was drawing on their motivation and your motivation as well. So go ahead.
No. I love what you're saying, because what you're doing is you're giving hope to people that live in an environment that almost seems exquisitely designed to extinguish hope. And the important message here is, although if you're in a jail or a prison right now, or if you are going into that system, sometimes it feels like you're a marionette puppet and other people are pulling all of the strings. But the decisions that you are making today are going to have a big influence on how the world perceives you. I did 26 years in prison, and yet here I am creating content where I'm connecting with CEOs of business leaders, and they're talking about getting inspired. And so if you think about building your own story, you can, if you're living in struggle, you think about, where am I going to be in the future? You can have an influence on how the world is going to see you. And that works both ways. If you don't do anything productive, the world's going to know that you were in prison your whole life, and they may not be as receptive to you as I think they could be if you start sowing seeds today for something better. And so James, you continued listening to the podcast because it was inspiring you, but were you getting any lessons out of it as well?
Yeah, I was getting a tremendous amount of lesson actually. So, back when COVID started to hit, back in March, I started to listening to your episodes more and more. And, as we all know, I mean, everything tanked, in March and April. And, for full transparency, I do have a fair amount of business debt from purchasing those businesses. I mean, they were business decisions. And, I purchased them, with a long-term goal that they would eventually pay for themselves, which they are. So when COVID hit and everything started tanking in April, I did have a rising debt level because, accounts were getting put on hold and things like that. So, and I didn't actually stress out at all. I took actually your lessons to heart, and I really started to listen to what you were saying. And, back in April, I'm like, okay, I can't get frustrated or can't get stressed out. And I'll be transparent with your audience. American Express actually put a freeze on my card back in May. And, I started to think actually like you and get your mentality. And I said, okay, I'm like, you know what, this is just today's problems. And I'm going to plot a course for the end of the year. And I did exactly that. I made some drastic decisions virtually overnight to cut costs and, to streamline. And it worked out very well. So here we are 5 months later, and I am actually in a much better position than I was in April. Once again, taking your lessons of, plotting a course down the road and looking at these problems not as like showstoppers, it's just a challenge that needs to be managed. And that's exactly how I looked at it. Other IT guys in my industry were, at the time, freaking out, and they were canceling their services and basically crawling into a hole. And because of you and the people that you're interviewed, and I applied that to my business, I said, I'm not going to go down a hole. I'm actually only have one direction to go. I'm like, that's up. So I rebuilt my service since COVID hit. I rebuilt it. I spent a tremendous amount of time. So now we have happier clients. I didn't lose one account. We're back to profitable, paid off, a massive amount of my American Express debt. So everything is going well, considering the circumstances.
And so that's the validity of everything that I'm trying to share with people in jail or prison. The reality is, since I've come home from prison, I've met many people who have a prison built around their mindset because something happens, and it could be anything. It could be a divorce. It could be a substance abuse problem. It could be the loss of a child. There are so many things that can just or the tanking of an economy because of a pandemic that nobody can expect. But at any time, if we recognize struggle and difficulty is just part of the human experience. In my case, that struggle and experience was doing 26 years in prison. The key to breaking through that struggle in prison, struggle and pain, is to look and say, okay, this is where I am today, but what do we always say in our courses? First of all, define success. And it sounds like that's exactly what James said he had to do. He had clients all over the country. He had a business debt. He had made business decisions, but something happened, okay? And at that point, he had a choice. I could either whine and complain and it's not fair, and oh my God, this is terrible, and but that generally doesn't move the needle in getting you closer to the outcome that you want. What does, James, is exactly what he said. I said, okay, I'm going to look at a time frame. This is where I want to be at that period of time. And then you can set these very clear goals. What do I have to do? Okay, what are the clear things that I can do that are measurable, that are action-oriented, that are realistic? If we pursue that mindset, everything changes. And that's why I'm so grateful to James for spending this time with our audience, because people in prison sometimes live without hope, and they're going to have to live without hope for sometimes many years, sometimes many decades. But if they develop the strategy of a strong mindset, they can use their time today that will just accelerate their pathway to a better life. And James, you're in your business, you'd mentioned a couple of times, or at least I heard you mention about outsourcing. I think that a lot of guys in prison could actually emulate that model. Could you tell us how your business model works, where you rely on labor at a lower price point, and you're effectively a quarterback and managing that labor to dispense to clients that need it? How do you do that?
Yeah. So once again, with your mentality, okay, is to look at things as challenging challenges, and how do you manage them, and how do you make it better, and then how do I plot to go in a direction. So answer your question is, back in April, I had very expensive offices, and I had very expensive staff, paying health benefits and things like that. So I made the decision to lay off some of that staff, and I do have an offshore office, where I have 10 full-time techs, working now at this time. So I made a drastic decision to roll the dice. I mean, I made a calculated decision I got rid of the offices. I laid off some of my in-house staff. I still have four people here, and hired more techs in my offshore office. So basically, I did it in 1 week, literally. And even my lawyer had commented to me at the time. He's like, I can't believe you did what you did in 1 week. And I got rid of the offices, laid off the staff, hired more people, and I accomplished two things. Is I cut a massive amount of my overhead, and I actually ended up providing better service for my clients because I had more manpower. And it's worked out very well because we're very efficient now.
So what I just heard him say is that the world changed. When the world changed, he had to change. He had to adjust. There may have been a time when it was really important to have expensive office space and have an overhead that could probably, amount to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. But if you shift, and if you look at the world as a much bigger place than just where you're based in Chicago, and say, let's look at the whole world, there's ways that you can get labor at a lower price in other areas, and then use technology you have to take advantage of this, and then maybe were you able to pass along actually savings to your customers as well, providing the same service at a lower price point?
I was not, no, I didn't pass any savings, but what I did allow for, because we did lose accounts. I had several accounts just up and vanish, stop paying their bills. I don't know what happened. Never got in touch with me. I tried to get in touch with them. So obviously that took a hit from our bottom line. But by making the decisions back in April and cutting all that massive overhead, and improvising on the fly. I mean, I allowed to lose some business, and I didn't even blink.
And so, is this going to be a continuing strategy then for you have you effectively reinvented your business in accordance with this new strategy, and you're going to be able to maintain it and grow your business and achieve your objectives with the new business model?
Absolutely, because if we were talking back in February, okay, I would never have said these things to you, because I mean, COVID is a major event, and I took a drastic strategy, one I didn't even think of in February, because I had a traditional model of expensive offices, in-house staff, you're paying for vacations and health benefits, and now I virtualized everything. So now I have an offshore office, and lighter staff, no offices here, paying rent, and use of freelancers, and if you asked me back in February, we use a freelance service. I mean, I never would have considered them. Now it's perfectly okay. And when I see that, the cost-effective savings, and I'm able to provide better service to my clients at the same rates, I haven't raised their rates at all. I mean, it's a win-win.
So the win-win for you, if you are in the Prison Professors audience, is to look at this story as validation that you can create opportunity just by the way you think. I did not know James 2 weeks ago. I didn't even know that he was a listener of the Prison Professors podcast or YouTube channel. But by listening to him, there's a couple of things that have happened for me that I want to translate to you if you are in a jail or a prison. What I'm finding is that, I could take these same lessons and put them in a package and market these to business leaders about the importance of critical thinking skills, the same thing that it takes to succeed if you're starting from jail or prison is the same skill that it takes to reinvent your business and hopefully get new customers and rethink about how do I become more efficient. And that could be an entirely new revenue stream for me. Nobody's going to care that I served 26 years in prison if I can help them become more successful in their business, and if I can create this in a model that will help them become more profitable. I can perhaps build another revenue stream as well. So I just am transparent and try and show you this is how I do it. I never ask anybody to do anything that I am not doing. And when I heard James reach out to me through an email I just asked him, hey, could I record this episode because I could teach and inspire more people inside, and maybe I'll try to build a new business model out of it myself. So James, again, I really want to thank you for being a part of our program. I want you to know that we'll be distributing this to more than 100,000 people in prisons and jails across America. Mm-hmm. And I hope that they will get valuable lessons from your teaching and will be able to use this to teach and inspire more guys so they come back as law-abiding citizens. And this could be a contribution that you made to being the change that we want to see in the world. So thank you so much for being with us. Is there any final words that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think just one final thought. As a business leader, I think the biggest reason why I took to you and the people that you're interviewing and what you were saying really started to gain traction with me is because, I don't really listen to motivational speakers per se, but, to me, you're real. You have a real story and you overcame real challenges. You created a real successful life for yourself. And I've listened to some of the people that you've interviewed that became professors and doctors and built the business. So to me, that's real. I don't need a motivational speaker just, filling up my ear with, go out there and do something. I really I like the message, and, it's just, that's why it gained so much traction with me. So that's it.
I'm so grateful to you for saying that. I hope that if you're in a jail or a prison, you listen to that as well, and you start building your story of influencing the way people will see you. I am Michael with Prison Professors. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please do so. This is the way we gain traction and teach and inspire more people to come back successfully. There's information in the show notes below. If you have anything to say, please leave a comment. I do my best to respond. Thank you. And thank you very much, James. I really appreciate your contribution.
Absolutely. Thank you.